What is going on, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. So I recorded this a couple of weeks ago. I'm currently in Mexico, chilling out before I head back onto tour in America. I caught up with a singer called Billy Lockett, singer, songwriter, absolutely amazing voice, amazing musician. And I'd never met him before. His manager, a guy called Ross, I've known for years and years. And he was like from the Bristol crew. Back in the day, he used to run Motion pretty much, which is a club in Bristol. He hit me up the other day and was like, would you be up for getting Billy on the podcast? And I knew Billy as a singer-songwriter before, and listened to his music a lot. And I was like, of course. So kind of came into this podcast not expecting anything and kind of didn't really know what we talk about. And it turned out to be an absolutely amazing conversation. It's been one of my favorite podcasts I've done in a long time. Yeah, sadly we had to cut it a bit shorter because Billy had to go and record his album or start the recording today, or not today, but when we recorded the podcast. So I really hope I can get him on again. It was an amazing conversation. So without further ado, enjoy. This is Billy Lockett. Billy Lockett, what's cooking, man?
Hello.
You all right?
Yes, I'm wicked. How are you?
I'm good, man. The sun is shining.
Where are you?
I'm in Somerset right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I guess I'm actually driving towards you, actually. At some point. Isn't Somerset the south, right? I'm sorry, my geography's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's like, you're Bristol, right?
No, I'm Northampton, but I'm driving down to Windsor, which is...
So Windsor's more near London.
Oh, is it? Oh,
so
right.
You're going southeast and I'm southwest.
Somerset, is that how you say it? Somerset.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. It's sort of like countryside, beautiful landscape world.
Mate, I'm
right?
literally looking out the window and it's like blue skies. The trees are like flowing in the wind. It's just like kind of perfect, right?
It's like an acid trip. Yeah.
I've never done acid, but
really?
Yeah, I don't drink or anything, so I've like kind of been like.
You've kind of got the beard for an acid trip.
I put the acid look out there. I just don't do it.
You're a phony.
Yeah, literally. Fusegi. I kind of want to try acid. I kind of want to try acid one day, but I think I'm more like wanting to try like mushrooms over acid.
Well, I mean, essentially, it's the same thing, really. It's the same drug, psilocybin. It's just, I feel like the problem with acid is that it never stops. And you just get to a point where you're kind of like, I'm so sick of everything being wrong. You know, it's like you just get tired of it. Whereas the mushrooms, when it wears off, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, no, that was a good amount of time. I mean, it's half the amount of time. You know? Yeah. That last couple of hours on acid is just
rough.
You know, horrible. Oh God, you just like, I'm just tired of this now.
I've like been around a lot of people that have taken acid, and the thing that scares me are the ones that don't have a good time.
Yeah.
And like, I remember one of my mates was on a boat. We were on a big boat party in it was like a cruise ship party. And he took like an acid lolly and it didn't hit him for ages. And then all of a sudden dragons started coming out of the walls and everything like that. And I'm like, I just don't want to risk it because I just don't want a shit trip.
Yeah. I mean, I've done it twice, and the first time I had the most amazing experience of my life, which I feel like I still go by lessons I learned from that trip.
Really?
You know, it really stripped me from all of the crap that I thought I was and tried to, you know, and all this kind of it made me think, why am I pretending to be this person?
Yeah.
And I'm actually like, it was kind of an ego death thing. It was really good for me, actually. And then the second time I was a bit cocky with it and I double dropped again, and, double dropped because it didn't work. It wasn't working and everyone else was seeing stuff and I wasn't. I was like, right, I'm having another one. And then all hell broke loose, man. And it's just
literally hell opened. And
yeah, I had this guy. Well, I had this face here for the whole trip that every 10 minutes I'd kind of just go, oh, and then flinch because he'd be here. And then, and after about 7 or 8 hours, I was just sort of accepted he was there. You know what I mean? We were just kind of like, yes.
Made a new mate.
I know you're there, yes, and I know it's not going to leave me for a while. I mean, it's more of a feeling, isn't it? When you have a bad trip, it's like everything feels bad, and you walk in a room and you're like, oh, there's really bad vibes in here, and I don't like it, and I don't know why, and it's horrible. Whereas when everything and it can turn so quickly, you can be having the best time ever, and then someone will just light your fag for you in an aggressive way. And all of a sudden you're in a horrible world of, yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. I would like to experience some of those. I don't know. I'm still too scared. I'm too paranoid. Do you ever get flashbacks?
This is the thing. I mean, I don't have flashbacks as such, really. I did it such a long time ago, and I did acid before I'd actually done anything else.
Straight in, balls deep.
That was my first drug, yeah. That was before I ended up going on to have quite a big career in drug addiction. But that was the first sort of experience I had. And to be honest, I think acid is probably one of the safest things that I've ever taken, really. And it's weird because I was so nervous about doing it because of the intensity of it. Whereas, with Coke and Mandy and Ket and things like that, I didn't care, I didn't give a shit. I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do another line. And it's just like, why was I not bothered by that when that's rotting my insides,
Ket is the worst.
Yeah.
Ket just...
And you don't learn anything from it. With acid and weed, I think you really learn about yourself and take away things from it. Whereas with booze and Coke and Ket, I've never I mean, maybe Ket, sometimes I think I learned something, but maybe I just learned how never to be. But I don't think I've ever learned much from booze or Coke, and it's annoying because they seem to be the ones that really can take a hold of everything and turn it into something negative.
Yeah, I think especially, just in life, isn't it? And especially being like a touring artist, it's kind of like this the go-to, and it's always there. It's always like on offer, and it's like,
you know what? Weirdly, for me, the times when I would have a really sort of a big drink drugs situation would actually be when I wasn't on tour.
Really?
Because, well, I mean, I would drink on tour, although my last tour was the first sober tour that I've done, which was really fun, actually. But yeah, normally it'd be when I come home and then I'm partying, and I'm sort of, that would be my relaxing time,
So are you sober now?
Yeah.
How long?
I mean, so basically I quit alcohol and Coke 9 months ago.
Cool.
And I think I had one slip about 3 or 4 months ago, and now I'm slowly getting to the point where I will drink if it's a really special occasion, like if me and my girlfriend are on holiday, I'll have some beers, or I had a drink at the end of my tour, those kind of things. Just like my 30th's coming up, I might have a couple of beers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
But really, I just I stick to weed, really, and that's it. I feel like that, and that's the only way that I could get off the Coke was by starting. I'd never smoked weed before, and someone told me that they'd quit cocaine from starting to smoke weed, and that was the only thing that worked for them. And I've tried therapy and rehab and psychologists and all these things, and nothing worked, and then all of a sudden weed did, and it's totally changed my whole life.
Yeah, man, that's amazing. My parents own a rehab.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
they own a rehab. But yeah,
Is that partly why you haven't really dived into it that much?
People always ask this, obviously, like my close mates and stuff that know my parents have a rehab. But I think probably subconsciously there's parts of it. Like I grew up in and around, like my mum has been a therapist my whole life and worked in rehabs my whole life. And I remember, like, you know, when you go to work with your mum, like when you're a kid, and like I remember going to rehabs when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and like mental health places, and I just remember that. And I think probably subconsciously there's part of it. And I before my music kind of took off, I worked in the rehab as well, so you kind of see like the end of the road for a lot of people before it gets, they're there before it's too late, if you know what I mean. And I think it's pretty, maybe, but I also just don't enjoy it. Don't enjoy drinking. I don't like the taste of it. And I get no benefit from it. I was never like a proper raver. I was never like into like going out and partying all the time. I'd always be DJing. I'd always be playing the music. So the thought of going to a club and like,
it's like going to work, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I've always, some of my mates sometimes go, "Oh, do you want to get tickets for this festival?" And I'm just like,
nah.
Why? Like, what? I mean, it just doesn't sound there's nothing appealing about it to me.
So how did you how long did you do rehab for?
Well, basically, I was doing therapy with a guy that I would go there for the whole day, and we would talk. So it was kind of like, I don't know whether it was like a private rehab, I guess, but I didn't stay over. And to be honest, it didn't work. I mean, the guy was a nice guy, but it cost a fortune, and the label were paying for a lot of it. And I think, I don't know, he was a heroin addict years ago, and that's kind of his story. And so that instantly I kind of felt like, well, why are you trying to help me when you're trying to help me with a totally different drug here? And it's like, it's almost like you're just going, oh, he's a drug addict. Yes, he'll know the right steps. It's like, well, heroin is a very different thing from coke. They're totally different drugs to have problems with. Come with totally different lifestyles and totally different ways of dealing with it. And as well, for me, a lot of the time, I kind of thought, it was really hard for me to work out that I had a problem, because I was, there were times when I was doing it once every week, you know, like, and I was like, oh, okay, that's totally normal. And then it would creep into being like 3 days a week, and I think the most it would ever be is like 3 or 4 days a week. But the problem is it's one day you're on it, the second day you want to come down, third day you feel good, so you get back on it, you want to come down, fifth day you feel okay, so you get back on. You know what I mean? It's like there's no room for anything but being on it or being on a come down. So the rest of your life is just neglected, really. And so you can only go so far like that until, your girlfriend leaves you because you're never coming home, and your manager can't deal with it because you're not turning up to sessions, and the label's sick of it because where's the money going? And all this stuff. So it takes a long time. But when I think of a drug addict, and even to this day, I still sometimes think, you think of the guy that wakes up in the morning in his pants on a mattress on the floor, and all that. And so it's hard to think, I would be like, am I just making a mountain out of a molehill here? That's the thing. And then it was like, oh, hang on a minute, I literally can't. I haven't gone a week without doing this for 10 years, and you're like, fuck.
It's that realization though, isn't it? And it's like, shit the bed. I've got friends, like we've all got people that we all know people that have addictions that don't actually know they have an addiction. And like, I think it's actually so common in society, right? Like, how many people every day get home and be like, I have to have a beer or I have to have a glass of wine, and then a glass of wine turns into a bottle of wine, and then like every night they're nailing a bottle of wine. Like that is an addiction. When when I've got mates that are like, I have to smoke like a couple of joints to sleep, I'm like, it gets dangerous when you're in that realm, because if that stops, then it's like, okay, let's move on to sleeping tablets, and then that comes with a few more beers and another whatever, and you're just like, it is a spiral. But I don't think there's any education out there that actually tells people what an addiction is.
Well, I guess because it's all subjective, really, isn't it? You know, someone could be doing it once every 2 or 3 months, but feel like they're addicted. I mean, I always find it quite interesting that most addicts don't drink. No, sorry, most alcoholics don't drink, and most non-alcoholics do. You know, it's quite weird. You know, I think for me, I used alcohol because I felt like I couldn't have a good time without drinking. And that was until I was about 20. And then when I got to about 20 and someone showed me Coke, it was the same thing. It was, okay, so 3 or 4 beers. The thing with me is like, if I have 1 beer, I'm probably going to have 4.
Yeah.
And then if I have 4, I have to get Coke.
Yeah.
I have to. Like, I'm 100% getting it, even if it means running, sneaking out of the pub so my girlfriend doesn't know where I've gone, running to a cash point at 1 a.m, calling the guy, timing it perfectly so that he arrives literally as I'm getting back to the pub so my girlfriend doesn't notice anything, straight in, straight back into the toilet, sorted, done a line, sit down, dripping with sweat. Made it work. You know, and she's like, where have you been? Oh yeah, there was a big queue at the bar, that kind of thing. And it's like, that's addiction, that whole thing going around your head of this whole preparation to basically throw 80 quid into the road and not be able to sleep. That's really
and it's not also that, just that, is it? It's also the deceiving to your partner or your family or whatever. It's that what you go to actually make it happen. And you're lying, and your girlfriend's coming out saying, you know, I'm really proud of you for having a couple of drinks and not getting it, you know, and all this, and you have to be like, yeah, cool. And you've got this app on your phone that says how long you've gone from being so. I mean, you know, I've got this app that's called I Am Sober, and I must have reset it about thousands of times, man. Thousands. It's a killer. It's so awful, you know. And then, I mean, the best thing was coming clean to my fans about it and telling Kirsten and being open about the whole thing and telling my managers. And from doing that, I felt like I had more people to let down. So it helped me. It really helped me stop. But the weird thing is that with, you know, so going back, I sort of went on a tangent, but, you know, 4 beers in, it's impossible for me to not do Coke. But I don't have a problem not drinking. So for me, like, if I'm in a pub, you know, I've gone to the pub probably more in the last 9 months since I don't drink. I've probably gone more and actually had a better time, because for me, not having a beer is literally not a problem to me. I'm not one of those people that's like desperate for that first beer. And so I'm really grateful for that, because that means I found it a lot easier. Some of my mates, you know, that first beer is really difficult to not have. So I'm lucky with that. You just got to know yourself, haven't you, really? Well, I think that's the thing. Is like what you're saying with addiction is like, it depends who you are and how it affects you. Like, it is purely personal the whole way through, and somebody's addiction is completely different to somebody else's. You can be addicted to fucking anything. It could literally be anything. It's just when it becomes unhealthy, it's an addiction. And it starts affecting everything around you. And I think that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't realize is that we all have addictions to a certain extent. It's just, how do you deal with them, and how are you willing to accept them before they get overpowering in your life? Like like sugar. Sugar is like one of the biggest addictions every single person on this planet has. Coffee, like
I heard, you know what? I heard that coffee is actually good for you. Is that a myth?
I think that's fucking Starbucks telling us lies, probably.
I swear someone said that it was like 2 cups of coffee is really good for the heart or something.
It probably is. It's probably like a glass of red wine's good for the heart. But I tell you what's better for the heart, going for a run for like 30 minutes every day.
Yeah, true. I think sugar is the thing, isn't it? And food in general, people have a real problem with food. I mean, obviously the weed thing for me has worked, and I'm still very wary of it. I'm still very much like, I know a lot of people who are, weed is ruining their life. They don't do anything. But for me, maybe it's because I'm on the early stages of it, but I've probably been smoking weed now for about 9 months, and I'm still waiting for a sort of a problem.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'm kind of like waiting, because when I drank, I'd wake up with a hangover, but like, no, smoke weed, I wake up really early, feeling really fresh, loads of energy, my skin feels better, like I'm eating better, my sleep's better, my relationship's better. I'm like, what? I mean, obviously, it's also better because I'm not a cocaine addict anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's all the weed. I think the weed might be helping, but
I'm just saying, where's the side effects? Where's all these things that people tell you are problems with this drug? I'm like, there doesn't seem to be any problem with this drug. I don't understand it. Like,
yeah, man, it affects everyone so differently, because I've got friends that smoke all the time, and then during lockdown, my parents' rehab, I've been helping them out, pick clients up that are coming down because of COVID. They couldn't come down on public transport, so when they need somebody, I go and help them pick them up. And I've seen people that are like obviously you get in conversations in the car, and they're like, weed has destroyed my life.
Yeah,
and I think that's the thing, is there's so many people saying like, weed is amazing for you and weed is helped me, but then you don't see the other side of it, and I don't. Very rarely we see the other side of it, because weed is kind of just like drinking nowadays, isn't it? It's literally so out there. It's so normal, and I think it's great that it's normal, but there's always that it can fucking destroy your life as well if that's your type of person, if it just affects you in that way.
I think it's just about having responsibility in yourself as a human, isn't it? And being like, I should be able to control this, just like people should be able to control alcohol. I think I do understand why cocaine is illegal, and that should never be legal ever, because, that I feel, I'm just subjective, isn't it?
Of course,
personally, it's like, if that was legal, that the world would be a horrible place, wouldn't it?
But do you think, like, because I think all drugs should be legal and monitored and everything like that, and it kind of gets taxed, and it all goes through how weed is happening in America. I think everything should be, because realistically, like, if heroin was legal, or if any drug was legal, it's going to be all regulated, and you're not going to be getting it cut with dodgy loads crap, of shit. And I think drugs in their pure forms are actually probably okay for you in small amounts. This is me just kind of putting it out. I'm not a fucking scientist. I wouldn't have a fucking clue.
Do you know what? You say that, but I was watching a Joe Rogan the other day where he was actually talking to a scientist who was speaking about how he not regularly, but
takes heroin.
He takes heroin, he takes crack, he takes coke, but he does it he goes to Colombia and gets the best shit he can find, purest form, and, does it in a controlled way and a sensible, and he's apparently fine, and he's a scientist and all that.
I listened to that episode and I was like, I didn't agree with him.
Yeah, I also didn't agree because I was kind of, I don't know, I was sort of like, but is that kind of cool? You're doing heroin with your wife on a Friday night? I don't know.
Well, the thing that he was kind of talking about was that he went cold turkey off heroin. And I'm like, it's not, you're not really going cold turkey off heroin if you're not injecting like 3-4 times a day for the last 20 years. You're going cold turkey for not doing it you've been doing it for like occasionally, like now and again, like
he wasn't addicted.
No, exactly. And that's the thing, is like, and I think what he could kind of change his like aspect and be like, if you take drugs in a safe and healthy way, it can benefit your life. Which I agree. Which it goes back to that coffee's good for you in 2 cups. A glass of wine's good for you in moderation. Like everything in moderation is great. But I think with legalizing it, it actually allows more like tax and everything to go into education, to go into treatment, to go into all of that. So, and you've not got people dying because things are cut with fentanyl and shit like that. Mm-hmm. But the point that I was saying is, even if it was legal, would I go and do heroin? No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like it's not the fact that it's
me neither. No,
it's not the fact that it's legal. It's illegal that I wouldn't do it. It's the fact that it fucks your life up.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's not like you can't get it. You know, if you want it, you can probably get it quicker than. You know, I've been offered it so many times. You know, by dealers when I got into that world. Do you know what I mean? And it's strange, isn't it? Because the weed dealers is such a different thing, isn't it? Like, coke dealers are so scary and horrible, and they offer you all these like life-ruining things. Weed dealers normally your hippie mate up the road, isn't it?
Everyone knows him.
Yeah.
It is a different lifestyle.
I mean, that says it all, doesn't it? That says it. You know, when I started getting into this, I'm kind of like, oh, right, so this is definitely a much nicer world, you know?
Yeah, I think.
But again, it can ruin people's lives. You know, it can, and everyone is different. I think that's the interesting thing, and that's why it's so hard to police these things, because everybody is different, and you can't. You know, you're trying to make one rule. It's kind of like how school is in a way, isn't it? Where you know, the school system has done its best to kind of generalize for as many people as it can, and it's like, okay, how can we find as many subjects that kind of do all the jobs so that these kids can work out what they're good at, essentially. And it's like, well, that it's hard because everyone's different, you know. There's going to be people who don't get on with any of it.
I was talking to a mate about this yesterday, and I was like, the school system is so old though now, and you just like, so like that. If you think how life has changed in the last 10 years, life changes a lot in 10 years, but in the last 10 years, like social media is just wild, right? Like everything's online, and school's still fucking teaching like algebra, and you're just like, where is that helping the younger generations to work out life? Like, how much shit is going on? Like, you were talking about food addiction. Like, how many people do you know that have food issues because of social media, because of like society at this moment in time? And it was always there, because I remember like we're similar ages, so like back in the day it was always about like the fashion models on the magazines, and everyone would be like, oh, these size 0 models, but you could get away from that because you didn't look at the magazines. But now on social media you can't get away from any of that, like the bullying that goes online. Like there's no education, there's no one teaching in the schools how to deal with these things. And
I guess their idea is that, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, life teaches you that. Yeah. You know, and then school will teach you trigonometry
that you never use.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like maybe it does need, maybe we are at a time now where schools do need to actually have a think and be like, okay, we're going to have a well-being lesson.
Exactly.
You know, and we'll have I wish that someone had taught me how to produce when I was 10. If there had been a lesson, you know, there was music lessons, but it was shit. Sibelius. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just pushing the buttons on the keyboard. You know, DJ, but DJ.
I'm still looking for one of those keyboards. I want one of those keyboards.
Yeah, they've all been burnt in all the old schools, haven't they? They've all gone now. They don't exist. You'll probably find one in a car boot sale that's broken. Yeah. But yeah, I wish someone had done that, because that would have changed my life. That would have literally given me a career way before, you know, I ended up learning when I was 27, 28, which is fine.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of know what I'm doing now, but like, still not really, and I'm still like 10, 15 years away from from feeling that I'm good enough to say I'm a producer properly,
My music teacher at school told me that, because I was DJing then anyway, but he told me that electronic music is not a genre of music and I won't ever have a career in electronic music. And you're just like, that's a fucking teacher, you cunt.
Yeah, I think my music teacher wouldn't even let me in the course because I couldn't read music. It was crazy. I applied for it and I was like really excited. And he was like, "Oh no, you have to have grade 3 theory," which I still don't have, and it's worked out all right.
This is the thing. It's just ego. These fucking teachers just. I think. Yeah, education system's not, because it's the same story. Everyone you speak to, it's like all of their teachers. Like, there's very rarely a teacher of theirs like actually like encouraged them and helped them.
Yeah,
very rarely.
I mean, to be honest, for me personally, I went to a really, really good school. I don't know really how I got in, to be honest, but I had to do all these tests and things, and managed to get into this like grammar school for boys called NSB, and it was kind of, I think there was like 400 people from it went to Oxford or Cambridge. Wow. It was one of those kind of. I got 2 B's and 7 A's, and I was like second bottom in the year. It was that kind of school, and so the teachers were amazing for maths and history and geography and all of the, English and science. They were the best, and they would leap around the room, and it was like Hogwarts sometimes. I think back, I feel very lucky to have gone there. But in terms of the arts, they were kind of left. It was sort of like not really seen as important. So, the music teacher was basically just like failed musicians, and same with the art teachers. They were just kind of like just hippie guys that kind of just wanted to just bum around really, a job, and just draw some stuff,
get some money. Yeah, it's such a shame, but I don't know. I don't think anyone is ballsy enough or got the time or the money to actually change the education system at all. So I think it's like too much of a big thing for them to actually move forward. But I want to talk about how you, like, when did you get into writing music then? But your voice is fucking unbelievable. I love your records so much, man. I know Ross pretty well, who's your manager. And I didn't know he managed you. I had been listening to you on Spotify for a while, and then I got an email from Sam and Ross going, "Would you be up for getting Billy on the podcast?" And I was like, "Billy Lockett, I know that name. Like, where do I know that name from?" And then I went on my Spotify. I was like, I listen to this dude a lot. And I was like, I didn't know you were managing him. And I was like, of course. But like, where did it all start for you? Like, how did, because you said you didn't start doing music until like 27.
No. I didn't start producing until I was 27. Well, yeah, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, but kind of doing it the old school way, really. It feels like the old school way now that there's this TikTok world and everyone's a bedroom producer, and it does feel like the way I did it is old fashioned. Just like me and a piano going around around the world, really, trying to just bash out some songs. But I think it kind of properly started maybe 5-6 years ago, I think, when I moved to London. I was doing it locally since I was like 18, 19, and it just wasn't really, nothing was really happening. Well, actually, no, it was all right. I got a booking agent on the early days, which was sort of like life-changing, really, and he put me on all sorts of tours with Katie Tunstall and Birdie, Lana Del Rey.
Wow.
So many great things. And I got quite lucky as well. My first song that I released was Record of the Week on Radio 1.
Okay.
This is like 11 years ago or something. Fern Cotton made it her record of the week.
Fern Cotton, that's a blast from the past. Damn.
Yeah, I know. And that really took off, really. And then And then everything was going really well. We were about to sign our first record deal. And then my dad died while I was on tour, which was nuts, really. I mean, I knew he'd had cancer for a long time, and I knew it was on the cards, but I didn't think it was going to be so soon, because cancer is one of those things that, someone in your family or someone has cancer, and for the first 4 or 5 years, it's kind of like, do they? They're fine. What's the problem? I just don't understand what the problem is. And then, in the space of a couple of weeks, it's like they it just eats you up.
You don't see it, do you? Because it's all internal. So a lot of it's just like they look great, and then all of a sudden it's bam. Sorry about that, man. That sucks.
No, it's fine. It was a long time ago now. That was 8 years ago. So, so then I sort of stopped everything basically and just quit. Well, kind of quit really, and went back home. And after about a year, rebuilt everything and just started writing about it all. And then throughout my career, I've been releasing EPs. I released an EP about it all, about my dad's situation and everything, and that got me a record deal with Warner, which was probably the worst thing I ever did. But
I've literally never spoke to a single person that's had a record deal that says they like it.
Yeah. It was horrible. But you know what? It taught me a lot, and it got me a hell of a lot of songs that I'll never use. And I did all these different writing sessions with all these different people. And I mean, I think everything happens for a reason. And I think they helped me in a way, I think. But then, I managed to get out of that. And I've released 2 EPs since then. And now I'm sort of just gearing up for the album, really.
So
it's taken me about 10 years to do it. So.
When's the album due to come out?
Well, I'm literally, after this, I'm going to go to the studio and find out.
So is it first recording day today?
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. That's cool.
Is. So well, I mean, this is the thing. I've been recording, so I've been learning to produce. So since I missed a lot out, really. I mean, I got dropped about 3 years ago. Well, I mean, I sort of begged them to let me go, and they agreed. And then I've sort of just been learning how to produce. So I made this, made a classical album. It was my first kind of test on learning how to do it all. And then through the year, I've been sort of making the album. You know what I mean? You know, because when you learn how to produce, you kind of end up producing all the time, really. Just sort of like, oh, well, I'm here, I'll try a little bit. I'll work on that kick drum for a bit. Okay, cool. Maybe I'll do a synth to it. And you just sort of chill out. So I've been, the album is a SoundCloud link, but it's just not, it's just not right. It's not like, I think the songs are sort of good, but just the production, I don't know what I want it to sound like yet. And I think sometimes I just need to be in with someone else who can help me find out.
Totally, man. Yeah. I think having some of the best people or best artists in this world have got somebody that just sits on the couch and is like, yeah, or no, or this and that. And I think look at Rick Rubin. That's pretty much what he's done his whole life, if you know what I mean. And
he can't even turn a laptop on, can he?
Does he know what a laptop is?
I mean, the same with Guy Chambers, actually.
Yeah.
He doesn't really do any of that stuff. But Rick Rubin's really good. That's the difference, I guess. Yeah.
But even with the Chemical Brothers, one of the they're not both producers, if you know what I mean. Someone's.
Oh, really?
I think I can't remember which one, but one of them is like pure engineer producing, doing everything, and the other one is a typical producer. What you would know as a producer, as somebody that probably puts his hands on the gear occasionally, but it's like, yeah, that sounds dope, or what about this, what about that? And I think it's important to have. There's at this moment in time over the last in my industry, in electronic dance music industry, it's like you should be doing absolutely everything yourself. And the minute somebody walks in the room with you and you're fake and you're not you're not good. And it's like, well, that's fucking bullshit. Because
well, is it really what is it? Is it that kind of world? Is it very not pretentious, but they've got strict rules almost? There's like a code.
I think it is, but the thing is, I think what it is not everyone's honest in this. And I don't know if it's the same in your kind of side of things, but you got massive artists that will say they wrote a record and it was produced by somebody else and it was made by somebody else and they've just put their name to it. And rather than being honest and saying, yeah, I worked with this producer, I worked with this engineer, and we did it together.
Yeah.
I think then that creates something in the industry that people are like, oh shit, I have to do it all myself. And all these people that are massive are making amazing music by themselves. And how the fuck are they doing it? And then you have artists that won't ever mention you working with someone, and the like producers can't tell anyone that they're working with someone. And you're just like, that's more just ego rather than actual
and it's also,
creation.
I guess the way that they would probably look at it would be, oh well, you know, I've spent years creating this giant brand, and
exactly.
you know, you've got to earn that kind of name, I guess. But at the same time, you know, if someone's done something, credit them. You're a human being. Like
exactly, and we're all in the same game. We're all artists. There's no better artist. There's nobody just because they've got a big brand. They're not better than you. A lot of the time, they're not better than you, and it does really annoy me, because especially there's a huge thing with like females and like females not producing their own music, and you're just like, why is it if a chick doesn't write her own music and a guy doesn't write his own music, why is it that the chick's worse?
Yeah.
And it's like, and they get like so much shit online, and I'm just like, what the fuck is that about? Like, we're all artists.
It's kind of a similar thing. I remember touring with Nina Nesbitt for a while in the early days, and it was really interesting to see how the label treated her as averse to how my label treated me, you know, because I was a guy. Because me and Nina were both singer-songwriters, so we both, you know, stood on stage on our own with either a guitar or a piano and sang a song. But Nina kept being pushed into having to dance and play a drum and wander around that, and no one ever said that to me. You know, I was always like, no, you're the male wise singer-songwriter. You're allowed to just sit there and do less, basically. Less work. You know, it's outrageous. You know, and luckily I think she fought back on it, you know, and I don't think it worked out with the label. But and the same with Katie Tunstall. I mean, it's rare that I think nowadays it's getting better, but totally. I think for a long time labels have been having to push women into being pop stars because they're females. You know, like completely irrelevant of the type of music that they were playing.
Yeah, and then you realize, sorry to butt in a bit, and then you realize that a lot of these women are fucking unbelievable artists, but because the labels are pushing them to be pop artists, they're actually doing something they're not, and being somebody that they're not, just to be successful. Because we all can get into that road where we start doing things just to become successful because we think that's what we want. And then for 5 years we've been writing music, we've been releasing music that we don't fucking want to be anything part of. And it's very apparent with women in the industry, and it's weird. I didn't know that in the pop world.
I mean, I don't know whether sometimes I've had conversations with people about it, and that maybe it's that, you know, maybe the public are to blame in a way, because the labels are really just going where the money is. And if you know, a woman prancing around wearing nothing, dancing and singing a pop song is going to sell better than her being a singer-songwriter-y Lucy Rose-esque thing, then we're to blame as well as a culture.
100%. You know?
Because if we wanted that more, then labels would push it. That really, they're not. I don't know whether sometimes labels, you know, they don't care about anything but the money. You know, they're not fascists. They're just money driven. You know?
Well, it's a business, isn't it? That's the thing.
it makes them slightly more moral in a way.
Yeah, it's slightly interesting if you look at it that way, that they are literally the same as fucking B&Q. They just literally want to sell something, and they will do anything out of their way to make it as sellable as possible.
Yeah.
So you can't blame them.
It's kind of that argument of like, if something is the most successful, does it mean it's the best? Definitely not. You know, it's like that idea of, you know, I guess technically McDonald's is probably the most successful restaurant that, you know, in the world.
Yeah.
But it's probably one of the worst, you know, and you know, same, you know, Ed Sheeran, I guess, is the most successful artist in the world, but does it make him the best?
Yeah.
Well, what is the best? You know, the best is subjective in almost everything.
But really, also, what is success, isn't it? What is success to? And that's subjective. That's very individual. Like, I think.
Well, I would say that money is a big part of it, isn't it?
I think money is a big part of it, as society would say, right? Like, if you see somebody with a shit ton of money, a big house, a nice car, you're like, oh, they do well. They're successful. But then I think.
But they might be miserable.
Exactly.
That's the difference.
And
is
that, and then it's like, is that successful? Or I don't think that's successful. Let's say, for instance, like James Blake, right? I don't know him. I've never met him. I fucking love his music. And I think he's so underrated. It's unbelievable. And I
mean, he's pretty big though, isn't he?
He's fucking massive.
He's pretty rated.
He's pretty massive. But I also think he's like, you go on to his, like, you compare him to other artists stream wise and things like that, and kind of show wise, and you're like, how is this dude not fucking smashing it? But then that's my kind of me going, well, he should be like up there with the biggest of the biggest and being like the biggest star and headlining here and there. And maybe it's like, maybe he doesn't actually want that. Maybe he's cool with just like being a sick producer, being an amazing singer, songwriter, and releasing weird music. Like, and I think that's what it goes back to, that public thing, is, do we have this perception of what we want people to be, because that's what we would want if we were in those shoes. But yet I know people that literally play guitar in an open mic night and are happier than most people.
Yeah, man. And I think as well, there's a lot to be said for playing songs that you like.
Yeah.
You know, I think I think I massively underestimated how important it is to do that, because when I was with the label, I was definitely churning out songs to desperately try and find a hit, and ending up with some pretty terrible music that I was having to play every day.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a lose-lose situation, because, you know, you play a song that you don't like, you know, if it does well, you're annoyed because you're like, oh, what's wrong with everyone? Why is everyone like this? You know, you can't really enjoy it. And God, that made me so depressed, having to play songs that the label had forced me to release that I knew weren't very good. And the weirdest thing is that a lot of those songs probably, in terms of streams, probably I would say did quite well. You know, they were successful. Like, one of the songs was A-list on Radio 2, and we toured it on an arena tour, and it was did really well. But I absolutely despised it. Whereas the EP I've released recently, I love every song. And to be honest, it hasn't gone crazy. I think it's nearly hit 1 million in a couple of months or so. It's not brilliant, but it's fine, and I'm okay with it. And I love the songs. So it's when people come up and they say they're a fan of me, I'm like, great, that's good. I like that, because I like what I'm doing. So, you know, you want to be able to get on with them. You want to relate to them, don't you?
Totally, man. And I think that is the thing about, I hate the word artist, because it sounds bougie as fuck and it sounds like egotistical. But that is the thing, is that when we start out, well, not all of us, but I can speak for myself. When I start out, I didn't start out to make money. I started out because I enjoy doing what I do. And by the sounds of it, you're the same, as you started out because you liked writing great songs. And the minute you stop writing great songs, the minute I stopped writing music to try and chase something, it just takes all of that fun out of it. And
fun. It's the fun. That's the most important thing. It's supposed to be fun. You know, I didn't even know that you could really make money out of this for a while.
Right. Yeah.
Someone told me it was a job when I was about 19. And I was like, what the fuck, really? Yeah, people have jobs in this. You can like do it and not have another shit job. Like, oh, fuck, that's
don't
great.
have to turn up to McDonald's.
You just take your apron off, slam it on the ground. Like, I can actually make money from this. I've just found out.
Oh, dude, mate, we've just done like nearly 50 minutes, and I know you've got to crack on. I feel like I could speak to you for fucking ever. But we have to do this again when the album's out. Let's wrap it up so you can crack on and record the album for us to listen to.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, how can people follow you? How can people get on your shit?
So Instagram, Billy Lockett, at Billy Lockett thing, I think. Just Google me, really. Probably best thing. Spotify and Facebook. Yeah.
Legend, man. Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch, mate, and hopefully catch up soon.
Great. Cheers, mate.
Peace out, man. See you soon.
All right.
And that is a wrap. Thanks so much for listening. Please share, please comment, please subscribe. Keep safe. See you next time.